even come back again and see if that works, I think. Really glad thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining as well. Pleasure to kind of virtually meet you. And first of all, though, I'm really excited that I will actually be visiting both Vietnam and Indonesia in September. So hopefully I might have a chance to be able to come and see you guys in person. Definitely the guys in Indonesia. So I'm really looking forward to that. It will be my first time in the countries. So if you have any suggestions on what foods to try or places to see, yes, but I'm mostly interested in what foods to try, please let me know. I'm more than happy to have that put in the chat as well. Fab. So I will share my screen. No, that's an email. Right. Can you see the presentation? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, fab, cool.
Sorry. We see your email anyway.
Oh, right. Okay, let's not do that. Is that better? Is that better? Yeah?
It's good
Fab.
now. Yeah.
Well, okay. So Aberystwyth is it's a beautiful place to come and study. I studied here about, I'm going to say roughly over 15 years ago, and absolutely loved it here. So I've stayed ever since. Now, we were the oldest university in Wales. But I think first of all, I'll tackle the most common issue that we have, which is the name. Everyone looks at the name and goes, "Oh, I can't say that. That's a weird name. I'm not going to be able to do that." So I've got a little trick to be able to help everybody actually pronounce the university's name. So I think, I mean, I'm not going for every university in every country, but in the UK, I think ours is possibly the hardest university's name to say. You do have your kind of your Gloucesters and your kind of Worcestershire universities, but I think ours is a pretty one that's quite difficult to say. So I have a little trick. I don't know how old everybody is on here, but I'm hoping you've all heard of ABBA, the Swedish band. And then you will definitely all have heard of your wrist. So if you go ABBA, wrist, with, and then if you just put all of those three together, then you can say the name of the university. But the actual trick is to just not say it and to just call it ABBA. You will have noticed our web address is just abba.ac.uk. Our email addresses are just ABBA. I think if we had the whole word Aberystwyth in our web addresses and email addresses, nobody would ever be able to contact us or find us online. So this is how you say the university's name. I've spoken to some agents and they're so nervous to say our name that they don't like to talk to students about it, which we really want to combat. So please feel free to call us ABBA or have a go at saying the full name as well. We are a Welsh university, hence the confusing name. So the word Aberystwyth actually means mouth of the river Ystwyth. So we have two rivers running through our campus, which are all very beautiful. So yes, ignore the rest of the word and just call us ABBA. So I'm going to try to not take up too much of your time, but I'm just going to run through all the kind of the key selling points of Aberystwyth, what it's like to study here in terms of our campus accommodation, scholarships, the top subjects that you're likely to talk about, costs and entry requirements. So as I said, we were the first university in the whole of Wales, and we started off in this kind of Hogwartsy looking building that's still on our seafront today. And it's being renovated into a hotel and wedding venue for all of our alumni, and still lecture spaces for our students. So we started in 1872 as still one of the first universities in the UK. And one of my favourite facts is one of the first to admit women to study, which I quite like. We have many notable alumni, and I think the most notable is probably King Charles. He came to study here. He studied Welsh as he was the Prince of Wales. So he studied Welsh to be able to speak Welsh during his inauguration. We also had the First Minister of Wales, as well as royal family members of the Malaysian royal family have come here as well. There's lots of other celebrities, but I think royalty is a pretty good alumni to say. We are also top in Wales and third in the whole of the UK for teaching quality. So this is a very notable ranking, and it's students ranking us, it's other universities and other academics ranking our teachers. And second, and we are always in the top 5 for this. We're always number 1 in Wales and always in the top 5 for this in the UK for student satisfaction. So this is students saying that they are satisfied with teaching, accommodation, campus, their whole student life. So sending your students to us, you're almost guaranteed to know that they're going to have an enjoyable time whilst here. So we're a safe bet. And a key selling point, but also a scholarship as well, is our International Accommodation Award. Now, students can live on campus essentially for free or with a massive discount. I'll go into more detail on this later, but we have lots of accommodation on a large campus, so we are able to offer it incredibly discounted for our international students only. And of course, as you'll see in nearly every photo that I'll post today, it is an absolutely unbelievable location. I realise you guys live in beautiful islands and tropical locations, but this is as nice as it gets in the UK. We're by the coast, on the west coast. We have absolutely stunning sunsets, surrounded by the ocean and mountains, and everything that students need is in one place. And when it's sunny, the beach is absolutely full of students. It's wonderful. So where is Aber? So Aber is in Wales on the west coast. It's super easy to get to from Birmingham Airport. So this is the airport I usually travel from. So there's a direct train. So from Birmingham Airport, you get on a train and it goes all the way to Aberystwyth. Students won't need to change. They won't need to swap trains at all. They can sleep and they know that they'll get all the way to Aberystwyth. Birmingham is a massive international airport, so flies to Dubai, has direct flights to India as well, and America. So students usually can find it quite easy to fly into Birmingham. Manchester Airport and London airports are accessible, but Birmingham is the most easy. We offer a free airport service for students coming from Birmingham, and this is offered for 3 days. There's 3 buses, and it's a great way for students to meet others even before they get to our campus. So this is Aberystwyth. So the lower half of this picture is our campus, and the upper half is mostly the town. So as you can see in the lower half, you've got all of our academic buildings, the university library and the sports centre. The National Library of Wales is incredibly popular for our students, as it is one of only 5 copyright libraries in the UK. It hosts every book ever made in the UK. So it's huge, it goes underground, and it has a huge archive section as well. And then you have the town and the old college and all the facilities that Aberystwyth has to offer too. Now, we're very lucky in that we have a huge amount of space. That also means that we have a huge amount of accommodation. Now, a lot of universities in the UK have really struggled with accommodation, and students have struggled to be able to live near their classes, near their friends, or even in the same place as the university. We're never going to have that issue because we have a lot of accommodation. Now, due to this, we've done our accommodation offer, but you can see here we've got different types of accommodation, and they're all, I would say, maximum 10 minutes walk from bed to lecture. So very useful for those 9 a.m. classes. So the International Accommodation Award gives students the option of free accommodation or discounted accommodation for every year of their study as well. You're guaranteed a room, students are guaranteed a room on campus, as long as they apply before the deadline, which is usually quite flexible. And you can see the rooms on the left are what students could essentially get for free. And the rooms on the right are what they would get with a £2,000 discount. So it's something for every budget. So if a student wants their own bathroom, if they want a big double bed and the really big kitchen living room area with the TV, they will probably be paying about £3,000 for the whole year, which is incredibly cheap compared to accommodation. And if they go for the free accommodation, they're essentially saving £5,000, if not more. Accommodation in universities is incredibly expensive. So it is saving them £5,000. So this is essentially a scholarship for £5,000. Now, to study with us, we cover a very, very broad range of subject areas. And I've kind of highlighted here the key ones that I see a lot of interest for. So you've got your agriculture and animal science, which I realise is probably niche, but we have a huge department for this. We have 3 farms, our own animals, our own crop area, which I can see from my window, from my house. Biology, biochemistry, this is all one of our largest departments, as well as the usual ones, business, computer science, psychology. But I will go through some of these subjects in more details as well. Ones that are proving very popular in Southeast Asia would be law, information studies. We get a lot of students coming to us to study library and information studies because it is a qualifying library course. We have a huge alumni base in Brunei for this, for example. Politics and international relations. We were the first university in the world to teach international politics as an academic subject. So it's kind of seen as the home of that as a research topic. We get lots of students for masters and research in there. So the business school is probably where you guys see most of your students go into, and this is where I studied. So our undergraduate programs cover the usual subjects, really, your business management, marketing, digital marketing, accounting and finance is particularly strong. But then we also have psychology and business, climate change and business, and economics as well. For postgrad, we have our suite of MBAs, which I'll go on to in a second, and also a master's program. So some of these master's programs, students can go on to from studying any previous degree. If they've studied drama, geography, law, whatever, they can go and study business management with us as a master's. Now, the MBA programs have both a January and a September start date. The first MBA program is our general MBA and does not require work experience. The others do require 2 years work experience or equivalent, but they all have internship opportunities within them. And it's a really international base of students on here. So it's a really nice working environment for them. I think computer science is secretly my favorite department here. I've had a recent tour and they showed me all of the robotics labs and the Mars rover, which you can see on the bottom right picture there. So our computer science and physics department work with NASA and the European Space Agency on the Mars rover project. And there's a room, as you can see in the basement of our building, that they've made to look like Mars. They're working on the tracking and the video. I'm not a computer scientist, but they're doing a lot of work with NASA on this. Popular subjects, again, artificial intelligence, data science is proving very popular. And also advanced computer science is available for both January and September start. So again, incredibly popular master's level subjects there with a huge range of employment options afterwards, which I know students are very keen to know. Life sciences is our largest department. So this is where you can study biotechnology, biodiversity, animal science. We have our own boats, we've got our own farms, we've got a lot of resources in this subject area. We teach veterinary science, as well as some nursing as well. But there's very limited spaces on the nursing course. Now, international politics, as I mentioned, is incredibly well regarded on a global level. International Relations Masters is possibly the most popular. Now, students can do a specialist masters or a research masters, depending what they want to do afterwards to be able to help them in their next steps. And law, we get a lot of students from Malaysia coming to study law with us, and kind of a few others from other Southeast Asian markets. Criminal law, human rights, international commercial law as well. Geography is one of those ones where it's fairly niche again. But we have such a good department, I always like to give it a little mention, just in case we have any students from you guys interested. Environmental change, impact and adaptation, remote sensing and geography information systems, all incredibly popular subjects with a lot of employment options as well. You can see two of our academics here in this picture. They do a lot of glaciology research, and one of our academics actually has a glacier named after him, and I think it's in the Himalayas, and his name is Professor Neil Glasser, which I always think there's a glacier named Glasser, which is always semi-amusing. So I've only gone through a few of our subject areas. As you could see, we had lots. But please, if you have any questions or specific areas that you think you would like to know more, say it would be about psychology or theatre or film, please let me know and I can go into more detail. But the tuition fees for this September and January are roughly around the kind of 16.5 to 18.5 for undergraduate, and then around the £18,000 to £19,000 for postgraduate. Now, considering the massive discount that students can receive from not having to pay accommodation, that brings the total cost that they're using to study in the UK really down quite a considerable amount. And students coming through Yes Education will also be eligible for a £2,000 fee discount. So any students filtered through Yes Education will get a £2,000 fee discount. So essentially take £2,000 off these fees. But when you couple that with the accommodation award, you're looking at £7,500 discount on the total cost of studying in the UK. So that is a huge, huge saving for students who are most likely going to be thinking about how to make this as cheap as possible, but also to get a high quality education. Now, you saw we are kind of always top 5 in the UK for teaching quality. We were University of the Year for teaching quality for 2 or 3 years in a row. So they are getting high quality education at a very, very competitive price. Now, living costs in Aberystwyth are also very cheap because we're not a massive city and it is a campus university. So students only have to walk from lectures to their bedrooms, between classes. So it's a really low cost area to live. So I didn't put all of the typical entry requirements because I didn't know which markets and countries would be covered. But I can send the links to our country pages, which list all of the entry requirements as well. So it's fairly kind of standard entry requirement tariff. It would be looking probably at 3Bs, BCC for some subject as well. And then for the UG courses, it's roughly a 2-2. So I'm going to check the Indonesia page and then I can read it out. The standard entry requirements, you're looking at kind of 70% or some of the polytechnic diplomas. And then for a standard 2-2 degree is about a 2.5 GPA. But I can send the links for this as well. Now for for English language tests, we accept IELTS, usually about 6.0 for business computer science, then most others is about 6.5. However, we do work with Oxford International, who provide a very, very low cost. It's usually about £78 for a student to take the Oxford International English test online. And they sit the first section online and then they get contacted to do a kind of a Zoom call with someone to complete the reading and speaking bit. And what we'll do is actually discount the cost of the Oxford International English test off their fees. So if they pay £78 to take the test, we will reduce their fees by £78. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it means that the students are going to be much more comfortable paying for that international English language test. And any discount on the fees, I think, is always well received. So to quickly summarize, because I don't want to go through every department and bore you with what you can find out on our website. Students who want something a bit different should consider Aberystwyth. Now, why I say that is because students who want to go to a big city and have massive shopping malls and multiplex cinemas, they're probably not going to look at Aberystwyth. We aren't a massive city, but we are a fantastic university in a beautiful location with a fantastic student community. When Aberystwyth is full of students, it really is full of students. So they get a real student life. And there's a reason I still live here after many, many years of studying here. And we have a really broad range of niche subject areas from your agriculture, arts, geography, adventure tourism, and also a really niche region for interests. If students are interested in hiking, water sports, there's something for everybody here as well. And of course, we always have the business, computer science, biology, law subjects that the bulk of students do come through. But I always enjoy talking to the students who want to study something a little bit different and have that specific interest area. And we specialise in high quality education at an affordable price. And I'm always keen to keep that going as well. So whenever we've had So we now have the fee discount available through certain partners, and yes, education is one of those. We have the accommodation award to keep the costs down for students, and it's a very low cost place to live and study anyway. And then the quality of teaching, the quality of the education, and the environment that the student is in is just a really fantastic one. I always wanted to study in a campus university. I don't know if it was because I'd watched too many American films where they all study on a campus and live on campus, but it was that community and being surrounded by the university was what I was looking for, and it is what people can get in Aberystwyth. So before anybody, please feel free to ask questions. But really thank you for listening. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person, hopefully soon. I will be in Indonesia at the end of September at the Yes Education event, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions, even if it is just kind of about the local area. It doesn't have to be about the actual university. I'm more than happy to help there as well. And I think the biggest thing to take home here is great university, great experience. I think a lot of students don't think about the fact that they're going to be living in this place for a year, maybe 3 years, maybe more, and they've got to really enjoy where they're living. If they're not enjoying where they are living, they're not going to do as well on the degree. And we have very good attainment grades for our degrees, so we're keen to keep that as well. So yes, thank you for listening. And I hope that was useful and I didn't go into too much detail, but I went into enough detail. So thank you for listening. And if there's any questions, please ask away.
Okay, thank you, Sam, for the presentation. So I'd like to share to the agents here that we're currently having a student for Aberystwyth, and he's granted with the zero cost accommodation. He's a chevening awardee from Indonesia, and will be
Ardy,
starting
yes, I've
the
spoken to
degree,
him.
yeah,
Yeah.
in September. So previously he didn't get the result for IELTS, and then he was offered by the internal class called passport test and facilitated by the university. So if you have any similar cases or potential students, feel free to contact me or the RMM in your country.
Mm.
Okay, I think I'll ask first some while waiting for the agents to type the questions. So we're currently having some of the inquiries for the a credit transfer. Is it possible to go to the university after they finish just the third year in Indonesia? Because we have 4 years here for bachelor. Is it possible to transfer to the Aberystwyth? And do you mind to share the turnaround time for the processing for
Mm.
the application?
So would they want to transfer into our third year or onto a master's? Onto the third.
Yeah, in the final year, actually, they're
Mm-hmm.
mostly for business and art students,
Mm-hmm.
for interior, and then some of them business courses like marketing, international business, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So we actually have a top-up business degree, which is the final year. So you can just simply apply to it like a normal course. So the turnaround time is really quickly because we can process that very easily. So the top-up master's degree, I can make a note to send that link to you. Apply just like any normal course, and the turnaround time is just as is normal for the course. And the more that we process, the quicker it will be as well, I think, whereas we get used to the kind of the number of credits and the courses that students will have studied. For the arts, it's a little bit more complicated because we don't have a degree set up for them to just enter, but it's definitely possible. I would say allow 2 weeks for me to be able to speak to the department, make sure the right people are talking to me, for the transcripts to be transposed into the equivalent of what we would have provided to the students. So it's definitely possible for all students, super easy for business, possible for everybody.
Okay, noted. Awesome. Thank you, Sam. We have one question here from the agent from Indonesia. Hello, I want to ask about the most popular program for the international students, and maybe you can explain why so far.
I think the most popular student course, it's probably going to be one of the business ones. I'd love to talk about a different course, but it's going to be either the International Business Management Masters or the General MBA. And it's because they can get a full MBA qualification with the letters after their name and everything without any work experience. So students from any background as well can do this. And the MBA allows students to write their business report on the industry and work with companies to be able to help them get a job afterwards. The business school also works very closely with our careers team on facilitating internships and work experience for the students during their course. And also, this is true 15, 14 years ago when I studied in the business school. It's not you always have small class sizes, so they don't cram everybody into one lecture and talk to 200 people at a time. You have small class sizes, especially at a master's level. So it's emulative of a real world working environment where you would have a meeting and it'd be max about 7 people. And so you always have seminars with about 7 people from all over the world, and it's discussion based. So it's that kind of, we have a small to medium-sized university and we like it that way. And I think that's why our teaching quality is pretty good, because we don't have lecture theatres of hundreds of people who aren't always listening. We have small class sizes to be able to get the engagement up as well. I should say I studied business, so it's not as if I'm like anti-business. It's just that we always get lots of students to business.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Let me allow this agent from Indonesia to talk because she raised the hand. Okay, Burini, feel free to talk.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for giving me the chance for asking. Yeah, maybe regarding the student from Chevening, so they can apply to the Aber Aberystwyth University. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're actually expecting about 5 or 6 evening students this year, which is fantastic. And we have a scholarships and partnerships manager, who is facilitating all of this and in touch with RD quite a lot to be able to make sure everything's moving quickly. I think for our one Indonesian evening student, we're waiting on evening to kind of send all the paperwork, but we're quite used to accepting these students.
Thank you for the
No
explanation.
problem.
Thank you, Burini. Okay, yeah. Another question, perhaps this agent would like to know about the students from Indonesia. Perhaps some you can explain more about Indonesian cohort in Aberystwyth University.
So it's a pretty small number of students, I would say. So we get on average, we have about 6,500 to 7,000 students on campus. And I would say there's probably only about 4 Indonesian students. So it's really small, and I'm really keen to grow that because I think there's definitely something that we can offer. That kind of low cost, high quality, safe environment as well, is something that I think students will be looking for. I think we're expecting a good few students this year, which will kind of increase the total numbers of students on campus. But I think we can definitely grow that more. There's we have a large number of Southeast Asian students. So the Malaysian Society allow everybody in, I've been told.
Okay. Another question. Considering the news at UK right now, how safe is an international student to study at ABA?
It is incredibly, incredibly safe. Aberystwyth is very international because of the university, and there has been absolutely no horrendous protests here. And I don't think there's even been one in Wales, actually. I think Wales is the one place in the UK where there's not been any unrest. I don't want to call them protests because they're not a protest, it's worse. Absolutely no issues here. Our students are very safe. We have a very low crime rate, and our international students, I've not heard any issues of any of them having. I've been contacted by lots of students who are due to come this September because understandably they saw the news and they were concerned for safety, but I can guarantee Aberystwyth is a very, very safe place to come and study. We have students from all over the world, and the local population here are incredibly liberal and friendly to our international students.
Yeah, I went to Wales last autumn and everyone was so kind. It's probably the kindest people I met.
I'm going to write that one
Yeah.
down. I'll quote you on that one.
Okay. Another question here. How many times students need to study at campus in a week?
So I would probably say students need to be on camp. Well, it's about 18 hours or 19 hours of classes a week. And this can be scattered across all the different days. So some days students may be doing 2 hours, some days students might be doing 6 hours. It depends on the timetable. This is fairly standard for the whole of the UK. So students, if they want to work part-time, will always have Wednesday afternoons, their weekends and their evenings free. And at the beginning of the term, they'll get their timetable to be able to organise work around that as well. So yeah, it's about 18 hours a week and it depends on the timetable.
Okay, perhaps this is the follow-up question. How about the job prospects for graduate program at Aberystwyth?
Mm. So job prospects for students here are very good, depending on the subject area as well. If you're studying computer science, there's a huge employment market there for you in the UK now. So that's really good. And it depends on the subject area. Excuse me. Our careers department have just expanded. They've doubled in size to be able to help students even more. We have careers days where we bring companies onto campus to be able to host a kind of an event for students to be able to find out more and find out what graduate jobs there are available. We also host sessions for students to have CV writing workshops, how to write a good job application, and all of these areas to be able to ensure our students are getting the best jobs possible. Usually students might leave Aberystwyth to be able to work somewhere else in the UK. They might move to one of the cities in the UK or move somewhere else. So in Aberystwyth, there's limited jobs unless you work for the university or one of the big kind of companies here. So students travel around the UK.
Okay, this is regarding the clearing. Are they subjects that still opening for clearing this year?
Yes, I think there's only about 5 universities in the whole of the UK that aren't open for clearing this year. I think there's a lot of universities open for clearing. The only ones that aren't open for clearing would be nursing, veterinary studies, and maybe the biochemistries subjects like this. Because we've got a very large campus and lots of accommodation, we're kind of open to be able to accept more students in most subject areas. And we are still open for clearing for international students as well. So if students have everything ready, in terms of finances, deposit, as well as documents, then we would still definitely accept those applications, and I can help push them through a little bit quicker as well.
Okay. Sam, for general intake, is it only for business and engineering or other subjects as well?
So it's just business and the advanced computer science masters. So it's
Okay,
just those ones.
IT related then.
Yeah, IT related, yes, yeah. And those, it's the MBAs that are available for January. So the general MBA and then those subject specific MBAs which do require work experience.
Uh, does it have like maximum age for the MBA?
No maximum age. We had when I studied my masters, I think there was a 70-year-old studying with me, so there's absolutely no maximum age.
Okay, so major students are welcome to apply.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. This one is related to the living cost because previously I think you haven't covered in your presentation how cheap is Aberystwyth as the a city to live. Is it like outside other cities outside the London, or is it cheaper than other cities?
It is a lot cheaper. Because so if you live in a city, you have to pay for buses and trams and transport to get around. In Aberystwyth, you just need a pretty good pair of trainers and you can get around quite easily. Food and social costs are incredibly cheap as well. I'm trying to think. A pint of milk in London, you would probably spend about £5. In Aberystwyth, you're looking at about £1.50. So it's a lot cheaper. Accommodation, it could be free or just a lot cheaper than other places in the cities as well. Um, General living costs in terms of social activities and day-to-day life, because we're a student town and most of the people that live here are students, the costs are really low as well. I think anybody who owns a business know that students aren't going to pay a lot. So you can get a really good meal for about less than £10, and you can walk around the whole of town and not need to pay for any transport as well. So it's a very, very low cost option for students.
Okay, thank you, Sam. This one is regarding the research. Are there opportunities to undertake research while studying at Aberystwyth?
So all students, undergraduate students will always finish on a big research project. Our postgraduate students will definitely undertake research. We are a research university and very well regarded for research as well. So if you have any students interested in doing research, please let me know. There's opportunities for MReses, so a Masters of Research. So it's a taught masters, but it's research focused. So if they want to go on to do a PhD afterwards, it is easier for them to do so. We have lots of PhDs available and a considerable amount of funding as well, both through private funding, government funding, and the university's funding for research as well. So my other half is a academic at the university in genetics and yeah, I'll just say genetics. No, I don't really understand it. And biology. And we have a huge research centre there, lots of research in politics, business, psychology. In every one of our subject areas, we have researchers. And all of our academics are researchers as well. So students are being taught by people who are at the kind of forefront of their subject area.
Okay. In terms of cohort for Southeast Asia, do you know which country has the most cohort in Aberystwyth? Is it
Yes.
Malaysia or Thailand?
It would be Malaysia. So we have a very, very long history of recruiting Malaysian students. We have a huge alumni base of Malaysian students. You're going back to kind of the 80s here, and we have a lot of law students who come through the UK transfer program that they have. So you're talking hundreds of students from there as well, and a very, very reputable alumni base as well. CEOs of banks, the head of the police service, a lot of judges and barristers, as I mentioned, members of the royal family. So Aberystwyth has a very, very big name in Malaysia.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
And
This
one
one is,
day in Indonesia as well, I'm sure we'll get there.
yeah, sure. We'll send more students from Indonesia. Okay, this one is related to the support, non-academic support. What's the university's policy on safety and mental health support for international students?
What a fantastic question. So we have a student support center, student welcome center, student support department. And we have an international immigration officer there who works with a team of international support workers as well. So they are based there and specifically there to support our international students. So our immigration officer will also support students right from the beginning, right through to the when they're applying for their graduate visa as well. So it's a full end-to-end support. But students on the whole in the university, whether you're international or UK, they get the same access to the mental health support. We have 24-hour security on campus. Not that it's needed because it's incredibly safe. It's usually there just to kind of tell students to stop loud music and partying. But it is a very safe campus. And the mental health support is also very good. We have fully trained members of staff in the university. So it's not an external company that we have to bring in. It's members of staff on campus who can support students on a one-to-one basis with a 24-hour hotline. It can be completely confidential. So students don't need to put their cameras on. They can just phone. There's online chat as well. So it is a fantastic way for students to be able to get that extra help. We see quite a few students from certain markets using this service. I think it's more now than it used to be, which I think is a good thing because it means that students are getting the help that they need. I think previous years it might be that just students were too afraid to ask. In accommodation, we have residential assistants, so usually mature students or postgraduate students that live in certain areas of our accommodation who are there on hand if anything's needed there as well. Each student will get a personal tutor within their department as well. And that personal tutor will set up semi-regular meetings once every month at the beginning and then once every couple of months as they get going, just to check in to make sure everything's going on okay with their degree, just general life and making sure everything's going okay. If something happens, they'll have more regular meetings. Otherwise, it will be fairly kind of every few months or so. So there's a lot of support.
Okay, regarding the GP, is it hard to get the appointment with the GP in Aberystwyth, or does the university have like a small clinic for the students if it's really emergency?
Mm-hmm. So there's a doctor's clinic right opposite the entrance to the university, which most of our students will go to. And if you phone in the morning for an appointment, you'll get an appointment that day. If you phone before kind of 9:30, you get an appointment that day. The university is also right next to a large hospital. So if there is a real medical emergency, it's incredibly easy to get the support needed. I've never had an issue of getting an appointment the same day. As long as you phone before 9:30, it's absolutely fine. And of course, apart from the NHS surcharge, it's free when you get here.
Okay. Uh, the next question will be regarding the immigration, because Australia is the most popular destination for Indonesian students, and then recently the policy changing, and some of the students got visa refusal. Do you accept student visa refusal from Australia? Is it fine to apply to the university in the UK?
Yep, so we do accept them and we would look at them as our own case. So we would make our own judgment on them because we are aware that students are getting a visa refusal just because they applied to the wrong university at the wrong time in Australia. So it's incredibly unfair. So yeah, we will look at the visa refusal, but also just look at the application on its own as its own thing and make our own judgment call. And 9 times out of 10, we would accept because our visa is a little bit easier than the Australian visa, it's got a little bit mad recently.
Yeah, agree with that. But recently the UKVI increased the
Yeah,
IH IHS, yeah.
Yes, the UK's increased their charges, which is causing a lot of issues for students. And also, the beginning of this year wasn't a great time of year for our visa either. So, yeah, it's almost reassuring that Australia's is kind of worse.
Yeah. Okay, we already answered all the questions. If the agent partners here still have some questions, feel free because we still have some more minutes. Otherwise, we can just wrap up this webinar. Feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box or just raise your hand. I'll allow you to talk to Samantha.
It's been really good and varied questions. So thank you everybody for that. I really enjoyed that because it wasn't your standard questions. I'm really happy about that. You obviously work really well with your students to have these types of questions.
Yeah, okay. For your information, everyone, Samantha will be attending the Yes Education Indonesia Annual Summit in Bandung in the 19th of September. So if you are invited to like attending the event, you'll meet Samantha and get in touch more with her directly.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Yep.
think that's all for the question. Thank you so much, Samantha, for your time and presentation. For the agent partners, I'll share the presentation shortly after this webinar. Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everybody.
Yeah,
Please
thank
introduce yourself
you.
to me in Indonesia because I won't know what you look like. So please come and say hello. And I'll be really looking forward to meeting you all. And thanks, Jazzy, for setting this up.
Thank you, Samantha. Bye, take care.
Bye.